Hi, and thanks for watching another instructional video for CSCI 1300. In this video, we will cover the software development cycle and what to look out for when going through each step of the process. The first step, whenever we start coding, is to understand the problem that we're dealing with. This means that we need to read over any information that is given about the problem and start to break it down and maybe take notes on it. This might help us identify inputs or other variables that we might need to have declared in order to create some kind of an algorithm around those ideas. The second thing is to take that information from taking notes on the problem and develop and describe an algorithm in the simplest language that you can. And it should be loose. It should be something that you can describe to others without getting too syntactically deep into the code of whatever type of programming you're going to be using. If it's C++, you don't have to specifically state C++ programs or functions, but you do need to describe what's going to happen in a series of steps, much like a recipe. Then, once you have gone through that process of documenting your algorithm, you need to test the algorithm with some kind of simple inputs. And this goes back to step one, where we might have identified something in the prompt of the problem or in something that we read about the problem that would give us an idea of what those inputs could be. We need to test some simple inputs. So say we know that we need to input an integer, we can try and use a value that we think would work for the algorithm. And we can pass it in and kind of go through the steps on paper and see if it would work out correctly. Once you've kind of played around with the algorithm and you kind of have an idea of how it works and how it would work with different types of input, and you've kind of thought that through and made sure you know what inputs you're going to use, you're at the place where you can take the algorithm and apply it to your C++ code. This will involve translating the information that you've written in very loose terms, usually in generalized terms, more closer to English than C++ or code syntax, and you're going to make that more syntactically correct in this step. So this is the step where you take an idea that says, I'm going to input this or do this operation, and you're actually going to find the way to do that operation in the syntax of the code. And lastly, once you've finished writing the algorithm and translating it into the code, into C++, it's time to compile your code and test the program to see that you're getting what you expect from the step 3 when you test with simple inputs. So if you can kind of go through and give yourself an output that you can possibly predict might happen if you turn around and try and do the same values with your C++ program, now is the time to do that. And lastly, notice that step 5 is an iterative process. This is something that's going to keep going if you need to keep working on it. And a lot of times we don't get everything right on the first try, and that's okay. The main thing is to continue to keep working at this and repeat this step as many times as is needed until you do get the correct outputs that are desired for the code and the algorithm that you have written. That's all for now. Thanks and happy coding.